It is now 7 p.m. and we'll call a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Orleans to order. I am Michael P. Mark, the chair. With me are members Beth McCartney, Matthew Cole, Greg Delory. Also present is the building commissioner of the Town of Orleans, Brian Harrison, and the board secretary, Sandy Stewart. There are two hearings on the agenda. I'll call them in sequence. We'll have the hearings in sequence, but let's call and see if everyone's ready. Case is number 1959, the application of Orleans Bowling Center.
We're ready.
Very well. And case 1960, the application of Brodeur Realty Trust. We have 4 members, which we have a quorum to transact business. However, generally, we would proceed with 5 members, and we are pursuant to the practice and zoning bylaw. We are informing both applicants that it is not necessary to proceed with 4 members. It's your election. If you decide to proceed, that's fine, but you don't have to. In that case, the hearing would be postponed till the next regular meeting, at which at least 5 members were present. So, Mr. Currier, do you wish to proceed with 4?
Yep.
Very.
Told me a couple of days ago about that. So.
Very well. So you understand that?
Yeah.
Very well. Then, in that case, this is a public hearing, case number 1959, the application of Orleans Bowling Center, Inc., through David Currier. The application is for special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 9, under Orleans Zoning Bylaw, Sections 164-3C2, 164-10, and 164-13, to construct an addition to the side of the building to add food and beverage service to the bowling center. The property is located at 191 Route 6A, Orleans map 40, parcel 37. Attending on behalf of the board are regular members Marnick, McCartney, Cole, and Delory. The board secretary, Sandy Stewart, as previously stated. Also in attendance is the building commissioner of the Town of Orleans. Are any members of the board disqualified by reason of a conflict of interest prohibited by law? No positive response. Have any members of the board communicated with the applicant or any interested parties on this application? Very well. I declare the board indifferent. Voting on the application will be the regular members in attendance. To all those who intend to testify in this case, now in hearing, aver that or confirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yep.
Very well. Then you may proceed and tell us what you need and why we should give it to you.
Okay, so back in 2011, I came in front of the board. It was November 2nd, 2011, asking for the same thing, special permit. And you guys granted the special permit for the food and beverage service. The project's basically the same, just we're going to have this addition now, which is going to actually put the food and beverage service outside, like out of the bowling area, alley itself. I think it's much better for everyone to separate the two, sort of. And since that, I've gotten the approvals from the state DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. They said that the 14 lanes and 35 seats was, not going to like hurt the environment or anything like that. And it'll really help us like grow the leagues. We do a lot of leagues now, like Newcomers League. We have Tuesday Night League, and we have like a handicap league, and it'll just help us like grow the leagues and be able to get tournaments in there and stuff like that. So just came back to see if we could do it this way. Oh yeah, and we have all of our approvals from every other board. What's the one about the outside of the building?
Site review.
No, we did that one.
Old Kings Highway. Architectural review.
Architectural review.
Architectural. Yeah. They approved us last week for the way the building looks. So that's kind of where we're at.
Sandy, do you have a copy of the last hearing? What, do you know what? We granted a special permit for the use already, correct?
Yes.
So, before us is what, lot coverage?
Special permit, because to go outside of the, before you,
Non-conforming use. Places of amusements are not allowed in that district.
Okay.
So the question becomes, is this expansion detrimental to the neighborhood and so forth?
It was essentially the same question we answered last time, just a different plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the, it's the physical expansion only, basically?
Well, it's up to you and how you interpret it. It's the places of amusement aren't allowed in limited distance.
Right.
Pre-existing non-conforming use will be conforming. Does this restaurant expansion with the addition, you may have to make a determination, and is this more detrimental to the neighborhood and so forth, and there's special findings for section 6, if you want to go forward or not.
But it's mainly because it's expanding the envelope of the building in the use that we've already approved?
Primary use, because that's what we're here for. There's no setback issues, and no lot coverage issues, there's nothing physical setbacks or anything. It's purely the use.
The last plan showed the same thing, but within the footprint of the existing building?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Is
now the new plans drawn by Thomas Moore bump it out, really.
Yeah.
And it's an 18 by 56.
58.
58, that's
Yeah.
basically a new room where you're gonna put the tavern and the
Yeah.
the
Instead of
stool
ripping
and so
those
forth.
lanes out, we're just gonna go punch a hole in the wall and go 16 feet out.
Otherwise, everything's the same.
Yes,
You
yeah.
have- You're not, by doing that, you haven't changed the number of parking spaces, you haven't changed the curb cuts, all of that's the way it was before.
Yes.
Do we have a conversation about the liquor license the last
Yep.
hearing?
We are not allowed to apply for the liquor license until we're about 3 months from opening. I don't understand it either. So I can't really tell you an answer on that.
In the architectural review, they usually deal with signs. Did they, are you changing your sign?
I think, no, I think, there's like a sign there now, and then like underneath the sign that says game room. I think we're just gonna replace those two little, we can't add any more signs. So we can replace them right there, but we're not gonna,
So the architectural review, they commented upon, on the addition?
they wanted me to do stucco instead of wood. I thought they wanted wood, and they wanted me to do stucco on the outside of the building and not to have double hung windows. They wanted me to have casement windows.
I see.
And then they wanted me to try to match the best I can that blue, because it's the whale mural. So they told me to try and match that the best I can.
And Board of Health?
Board of Health signed off on what the Department of Environmental Protection said, which was
Okay.
that it's okay to have the 14 lanes and 35 seats.
Are there any other questions of the applicant?
I had a comment. If you do this again, could you have your engineer put the addition on the site plan?
I do. I thought I gave it to you. I do have it on there. I thought.
It's not on the site plan.
It
but-
isn't?
No, but Mr. Moore's
That's my fault.
drawings do conclude.
You can see it. You want to see what you gave us?
I gave you the wrong one. I apologize. I actually, I gave you the old one. I'm sorry, that's my fault completely. Ryder Wilcox has a whole new site plan with all that drawn. I went through site plan review with that. I must have gave you the wrong one.
You have the right one with you now.
No, I do not.
Very well.
So it's pretty obvious what's going on in this case.
Yeah.
Sometimes it isn't, but from the floor plan and the north-south orientation, it's pretty obvious.
It shows the dumpster, it shows we have all our setbacks. I'm sorry, I don't know how, I didn't even look at that.
Is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Yes, sir.
My name is Dr. Benjamin Anderle. I have an office, chiropractic office in Orleans. I just want to speak on Dave's behalf as far as in a positive light, that I would like to see something like this go through that would help sort of the local businesses in the community as well, and potentially could help my own business as a chiropractor if people are bowling there a little bit more and potentially. And on a personal note, I have 3 young children and things that get to utilize that area quite often, so I'm looking forward to hopefully that this all goes through.
You wanna do something dangerous?
Dave, you need some lighter balls down there.
Yes, ma'am.
I just think it would be great to have a place to go as a young adult, but you're not just sitting in a bar, staring at a TV, not doing anything. It's an active place, friendly competition with friends, just something new and fun. I think we really need it around here.
Very well. Yes, sir.
My name's David Amabello, and I help run the Old Tavern Motel in Orleans here. And I think probably just speaking on, I'll do it, and on behalf of all the places in town that have people coming to stay with them, all the motels and hotels, the bed and breakfast. Another really funky new amenities. We've seen, some places just up in town that are doing very well. Town and a lot of the young people are starved for something like this to do, and it would just be another thing to offer for rain days and just more people come on down to the Cape. Especially want to seize that as soon as we can. This summer's going to be a very big summer, I think, with New Jersey being battered. There's going to be a lot more people come here. We do very well, and we're going to need a lot more to offer.
The only thing is you're losing 3 lanes out of the whole transaction.
Not anymore.
No, we gained them to 3 lanes. That's why, that's the whole reason I wanted to do it.
Yeah, this is much better.
Makes sense.
It pushes the food and drink service out of the existing building. Makes it a lot better. Right here. Have you seen the? I didn't
I
show
thought you were ending up with 11 lanes.
you. No, that was 2011.
Oh, so.
That's what you approved in 2011.
And now you have,
Yeah, you want to see it?
well, you can tell me.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I didn't examine it carefully.
Yeah. See, before we we're gonna take out these 3 lanes. Now we're punching that hole in this one.
So you keep the same number of lanes?
Yeah, all 14.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
I'm David Curry, who owns the alley now. And if everything works out, I'm turning it over to David. So we need to, he basically needs more revenue, and this is the best plan. I pushed him to do a plan like this because it gives the extra room, and where the new part of the building is going on, we tear off what we call the boiler room now. There is a room which will be about as far out as it goes. So that will be, the heating system and everything will be in the new one instead of in that room.
Very well. For the record, there's no correspondence received by the board either in favor or in opposition to the application. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition to the application of the Orleans Bowling Center, Inc.? Very well. Are there any further questions from members of the board?
No questions. Should we poll?
Then I'll close the hearing. Yes.
I think it's important with 4 of us. We'll start.
Based on the fact that we approved this once already, I'm in favor of approval this time around for the expansion of the building for the same use that we approved.
Same. I think it's a better plan, not losing lanes. It's good.
I agree.
I agree. I think it'll be a real asset to the town.
Awesome.
Very well.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. 1, The subject property, known as 191 Route 6A, Orleans, is shown as parcel 37 on Orleans map 40 and is in a limited business district. 2, the present use of the property is a bowling alley with 14 lanes and a separate building housing a laundromat. 3, the proposed use of the property is a 14-lane bowling alley with food and beverage service accompanied by 15 seats and a laundromat in a separate building from the bowling alley. A restaurant with sale or dispensation of the alcoholic beverages is allowed in the LB district with a special permit.
We got approved for 35 seats. 15 seats was the last one.
The plan the plan that we received shows 15 seats.
Let's go back to the plan before we continue. Let's make sure we have this. Did you understand anything different, Mr. Laurie? I thought it was 15.
Do you have the correct plan?
Yeah.
It says 15 seats.
Well, the Department of Environmental Protection, I think I wrote in the application 35. The Department of Environmental Protection gave us approval for 14 lanes and 35 seats. Ooh, he just put this is just a blueprint of the lake course, just to give you an idea.
Where are you gonna put those extra seats?
No, we're thinking about, well, we have to get a low-top table in for handicap accessibility.
Do we have that DEP document?
I did not know that I need to bring it.
Well, there's a pretty big discrepancy.
I thought I put it in the application.
Should we just be silent on the
35
numbers?
seats on Ryder and Wilcox plan,
Well, let's,
They-
the site plan?
will it make
They
any,
got approved at site plan.
would the difference make any, would the difference between 15 and 35 bother any, or concern any of the members of the board?
Brian, is that an issue anywhere, the number of seats?
Certainly talking about the occupant load and egress and doors and have to be designed around that. We haven't got that information yet. The engineer has to do it, so.
I mean, I can get the letter from the DEP letter. I didn't know that I'd have to bring that.
Were you gonna bring the seats out to where the existing bathrooms were?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, we got the approval for 35, so it was one of those things when we punch that hole in the wall and we actually get that bar built, we'll know what kind of space we have. I mean, we might not use all 35, but
So let me ask another question. The plans before us show 18 by 54. Is that the right size for the addition?
I thought it was 18 by 58.
Oh,
Is what Ryder Wilcox put on the site plan. That,
Right.
We don't have that.
No, see, we don't have that one. So we'll have to use what Mr. Moore has indicated. That's 18 by 54. If it's 2 feet larger,
4 feet would be 58.
Okay.
Yeah.
54 feet.
Then we
It
should
would-
continue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The sense is that we really ought to see.
I thought I'd put it in the
See,
application.
There's 2 things that we would probably like to have in the file before we vote,
Okay.
I think. One is Ryder and Wilcox's most recent plan.
Site plan.
I know that the architect had sketched preliminarily that bump out would be 18 by 54.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 18 by 56, all well and good. But we would ordinarily be using the engineer's plan,
Okay.
okay? That bears on the extra amount of area that you're gonna have within the envelope,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Delory calls it, to have more seats.
Mhm.
Some of it, we were able to see for ourselves. We expected to have the stools or the chairs around the bar,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to have a better idea of where, if there's going to be another 20 people using the tavern, then we have to make sure that there's enough room for those people. If you have documentation for that purpose, then that's what we need, and then we'll vote on it.
All right, so you're saying, should I get a DEP?
I don't know if it's in there. If it's in that, I don't, no one's asking you to go back to that board.
No, I meant, should I go get the letter from the DEP stating that I can do 35?
Yes,
Oh, all right.
yes, that will be fine,
All right, cool.
you know. And then we'll put it on the agenda,
All right.
and then what the point is, generally speaking, what you get out of permitting
Mm-hmm.
is what we have in our file when we go to vote,
All right, cool.
okay? And it's a little bit incomplete right now.
All right.
So I think you get a sense of the board. We've closed the public comment, so everybody doesn't have to come back next time, but if you come back
Yeah.
with those 3 documents, then the ducks will be in a row.
The Ryder Wilcox, the DEP, and I'm not sure what the third.
And then the floor plan that shows the same dimensions as your
35
site
people.
plan. Because if we approve this, then you can only build at 54 feet.
Okay. All right, cool.
Seating for the 35 people.
Oh, you want the seating on it too?
Yeah, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, yes, that
I mean, am I
I
gonna
think
be?
you thought that would be in the DEP approval.
I just figured the approval for 35 seats was adequate enough because you don't really know what space, being a construction worker, you don't really know what space you have until you actually get in it. And I mean, to show you exactly where the tables are gonna lie.
And what you gotta give us some evidence so that we can do that calculation. If you don't have anybody else to do it, you've gotta say, well, we can have this addition, this much of, this amount of area is going to be available for seating. And
Okay.
therefore, we calculate so many square feet per person, and that calculates out to no more than 35.
Alrighty.
That would be satisfactory too.
Cool.
But you gotta help us out so that we can make a finding that's supported by the evidence.
Alrighty.
I
Okay?
think the architect can just draw it in here.
Yeah, that's what I was, have Tom Moore do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome.
Sorry
Is
about
that
that.
continuance then?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll continue that.
To the next meeting on April
Tonight, April 17th.
If you could do it for April
17th?
17th, that would be
17th.
fine.
All right, easy enough. Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Motion to continue?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. The hearing is continued until April 17th, 2013, 7:30 PM. Where is the... Excuse me. We'll now, this is a public hearing in the case number 1960, which is the application of Andrea and Stephen Brodeur Realty Trust, filed March 8, 2013, for a special permit. It's set forth in General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 6, also under zoning, Orleans zoning bylaw, Sections 164-3C, 1B, and 164-21, to reconstruct a pre-existing non-conforming house and garage in violation of setback requirements, and in the alternative, seeking a variance. The property is located at 25 Weesett Proprietors Way, Orleans, Mass. Number 6, Parcel 4. Attending on behalf of the board are the regular members Marnick, McCartney, Cole, and Delory, and the board secretary Sandy Stewart. Also in attendance is the building commissioner of the town of Orleans, Brian Harrison. Are any members of the board disqualified by reason of a conflict of interest prohibited by law? No positive response. Have any members of the board communicated with the applicant or any interested parties? No positive response. The board is, I declare, is impartial. Voting on the application are the regular members in attendance, 4 of whom are present. All those who intend to testify in this case now and hearing swear or aver that the testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Very well. Then you may proceed.
Thank you. Sarah Toronto Flores on behalf of the applicant. I apologize for having tea. I'm losing my voice, as I think you can tell. So I will, if you could bear with me. With me this evening is Dave McNibbits from Coastal Engineering, also John Meyer and Tim Haynes from Meyer and Mark, the architectural firm of Meyer and Meyer. Also Mr. Stephen Brodeur, who's the owner of the property, is here as well. This has been a sort of long and extensive design process. We began almost 2 years ago after getting a year ago the reconstruction of the revetment approved by the Conservation Commission. Shortly thereafter, I met having preliminary house plans and a footprint with Brian Harrison, your building inspector, and John Janelle, the conservation agent, to discuss these plans and this property because, as you can see from the plans, it's somewhat unique. It's located on a peninsula that extends into Nauset Harbor. It's narrow in shape, and it's shared with another property. Almost the entire property is located within the 100-foot buffer zone. When we recently went in front of the Conservation Commission, they asked us if we could provide them with a plan that lifted out a lot of the busyness that you see on the plan that we filed in front of you. And I have a copy for you tonight that may assist you, as it did the Conservation Commission, in seeing better what's going on with respect to the relevant portions and elements of this project that are relevant to your inquiry related to zoning. It's also, this copy is up on the board here today. But you can see that due to the narrow shape of the lot and its location on a peninsula, that almost all of the property is within the 100-foot buffer zone to this coastal bank that surrounds the property on all 3 sides. There's also a fringe salt marsh that is beyond the coastal bank and revetment shown on this plan, and you can see it with the little squiggly marsh signs on this plan. The 100-foot buffer zone, is this blue dashed line. And so almost all of the property is within 100 feet of the bank, and in fact, the only portion of the property that's outside the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank is within the 25-foot sideline setback under your zoning code, under the Orleans zoning code. So it made certainly the design of this and maneuvering and building the building footprint and additions into this envelope somewhat challenging, and that's why it did take so long. When I sat down with Mr. Janelle and Mr. Harrison back almost a year ago, we discussed not only those setbacks and the conservation requirement that all new construction, including reconstruction that increases living area within the buffer zones, be located where feasible outside the 75-foot buffer zone. And we also talked about if we were to do that, it would position most of the new portions of the structure out into the west sideline, and thereby we would be running into your sideline setback. At the time, in consultation with me, we determined under both the zoning bylaw and the wetlands bylaw to try and maneuver most of that new construction on the west side of the property, including when you see the design elevation plans, you'll see even the raised roof line is more on the west side of the property, so that there's not an increase of living area, in fact, in the 0 to 75-foot zone at all. And so what you see on this plan in front of you in brown is the existing structure is in brown, including this deck on the eastern side here and this existing garage here, more on the eastern side. What is shown in red, in green, are the newer portions of the property. So you have a bump out here, you have a screened-in porch here, You have a kitchen extension here, mudroom here, and then a roof connector out to the garage. Because the garage is connected to the main structure, we are considering it part of the main structure and therefore believe that the 25-foot setback and not the accessory structure setback is applicable here. But I think that this plan shows you, that the additions are few and far between, and definitely on the more western side of the property. You will notice, and what was significant to the Conservation Commission was the removal of the existing garage outside their 50 to 75-foot zone entirely, and almost, in fact, out of their jurisdiction. Only a few corners of it are within the 100-foot buffer zone. So that was seen as an enormous benefit, as was the mitigation planting. It is not shown on this plan, and it's not shown on plans filed with you, I think, but there is extensive, there was initially approved in connection with the revetment over 2,000 square feet of vegetation planting along the revetment. This house plan proposed an additional 3,000 square feet more, a portion of which is shown here. The rest of it fills in this area here in front of the coastal bank. So you have a real thick, dense planting area now that will replace manicured lawn with native vegetation and plants, shrubs, herbaceous, and tree layers that will improve the stability of the buffer zone, thereby contributing to the flood control and storm prevention functions of the bank, and also greatly improve the wildlife habitat functions of the bank and this property, so that we believed and in fact succeeded at the commission in devising a project that created a net environmental benefit to over existing conditions. And then going from there, we got approved on March 5th, and shortly thereafter filed for this zoning application. I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to, I'm sure you haven't discussed with each other, but in another case, if you've discussed my analysis under the Gale versus Gloucester case. In speaking with Brian Harrison, I know that he had spoken to the town attorney, Michael Ford, relative to that case, and Attorney Ford and I are in agreement that that case says if you are reconstructing a pre-existing non-conforming structure so that you're changing, increasing, or adding new non-conformities, you can proceed by a special permit if this board finds that the proposed increase and or new nonconformity will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. So we've initially are seeking a special permit here because we are in fact reconstructing an existing, pre-existing non-conforming house. It is only 28 feet from the coastal bank. The existing structure is only 28 feet from the coastal bank, and the proposed structure will maintain that setback. Both the existing and proposed structure are 27 feet in elevation along that coastal bank, and therefore would need to be 41 feet to meet your bylaw. We're actually maintaining that corner, and in fact, we are maintaining the entire foundation. That foundation of the existing house is going to remain in place, and we're building on top of it, again, to limit the amount of disturbance in the buffer zones. So we would need a special permit for that on that east side. In addition, we need zoning relief on this west side because, as you'll see on the plans, we are 24 feet, we intrude 1 foot into the setback area on this screened porch area. We extend 2 feet in connection with the kitchen. 23 feet there. Sorry. I think that the kitchen, it should be 23 feet on this. I guess it is 24 feet. So it's just 1 foot, sorry. And then this mudroom area is 22 feet. So on this side, we're between 1 and 3 feet intruding into the setback area. Additionally, the garage, which again was moved out of the coastal bank buffer zone, extends 13 feet into the side yard setback and is only 12 feet from that sideline, again, because we're applying the main structure setbacks and not accessory setbacks due to the connector here. Under the Gale versus Gloucester case, we believe that those can be approved by special permit, assuming this board finds that we meet the substantially and not more detrimental to the neighborhood standard. What I'd like to do now, with your permission, is turn it over to the architects to go through the elevations, and then I will quickly wrap up applying the special permit standards under your bylaw, and then we can take your questions if that's okay with the chair.
Very well.
Okay.
May proceed.
It looks like a lot of boards, but I promise I will go through them quickly. So I'd like to start, because looking at the plans, and that doesn't give you a sense of what we're actually working with. So I just wanted to start with some pictures of the existing house. So this is from the water side. It's a house that was built in the mid-1980s. And as you can see from the pictures, it's neither modern, nor traditional. It's the interior is the floor plan is a bit awkward, and the massing and the form is a little confusing. It's not something that that's easily recognizable. But the lot, the property is just so terrific. The owners came to us and they asked us to work on the house and make it seem like something more familiar to people. So they asked us to start by looking around Orleans at housing and things that were traditional. They asked us to go to particular buildings and look at houses that they liked, things that they thought represented sort of something that was traditional and familiar and comfortable, looking for something that is more fitting to the site and to the town. They were not looking to build something that was significantly taller or bigger or more grand in some way on the site. They asked us to hold the footprint and keep the ridge height where it was, and do as much as we can to protect the bank and to move massing away and sort of create something that was responsible. So we started with these images as inspiration, looking at materials that would age gracefully and materials that were natural, forms and columns and porches and things that made that work for the town and its site. So we started just looking at the house from the water. So this is the larger view of what you see from the outside, and we realized that when the revetment work is done, we've got a lot of plantings, a lot of mitigation that's coming in. So we started with this particular image and worked our way back through the mitigation plan. What would it look like? How much could we actually bring the house into the landscape, and how much could we actually mask it? And so we drew in to the plan all of the mitigation plantings. I'm going to introduce John Meyer because he created the drawing, and I just have to present it. He actually has to draw it and do this. So you can see that in this particular view, there's a great deal of new planting, and I did actually bring the mitigation plan. So, John, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Just quickly, just a summary of what we did is Mr. Brodeur is here today. We've never had a client come to us before and say, our number one goal is that we not see the house. And number two, what we do see has to look like Nauset Heights. So that's why we went down there and photographed all of these samples and had the opportunity to meet all the ladies that live there that came out to ask us what we were doing with it. And, but you can see that it's very unpretentious, very natural materials. The roof lines are extremely low. And so that was our charge, to see how we could make the house disappear, and secondly, how we could make it non-obtrusive when you did see it. Phil, I've got Phil Cheney stuff here. Phil Cheney did all of these plantings for us, and then he gave us the heights of it, and we cheated. We figured what it would look like in 5 years, figuring it'd be here for 300 anyway. So, but anyway, took the heights on it and showed where all the planting was, and then got pictures of every plant in there. So we knew what the color, size, and shape were. And this is an overlay over the previous. Do you have the before? And we found that simple form for the little tight house that they were doing there. I don't know if you can see this, but just the simple timbers and the open plan worked really well for taking a really small home and giving it some open, expansive spaces. And then, as far as the the outside of it, and again, this is an overlay, so all you can really see is Phil's plantings, but you can pick off the chimney, which is right there. So if all the planting would go away, there is a nice little kind of Nauset Heights. Wait, let me get it on right there. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see that?
Yes.
And that's really what's back in it. And that's all I have to say. And Tim will show you the elevations, but again, split red cedar, thick shakes on the roof lines that come way down low, white cedar on the walls, just everything we can to make it blend in and go back to kind of the camp it was 100 years ago.
This actually is the mitigation plan. So there's a great deal of mitigation along the revetment work and the additional amount of mitigation that goes along with the addition. But I want to just start with the plan, because it actually, just sort of to walk you through the site, because what you do now is you drive up to the existing house along a shared driveway, and you essentially pull up to the neighbor's property, hang a right, and park the car. And the existing garage sits right here. You've got it on your plan too. So you just pull up to the garage and sit there. And one of the things that we wanted to do was also sort of separate the two properties a bit. And one of the advantages, we're going to talk about the garage, and we're moving it closer to the neighbor's property, but what we're actually trying to do is separate the two properties a bit more. And to that end, we're actually taking the driveway, and you actually turn off onto the Brodeurs driveway first, and it's a simple, it's this parallel tracks driveway that goes right over where the existing garage is, and you pull in front of the house, and with the garage towards the left side. And what we were looking to do in moving the garage out of the coastal bank, out of that setback, and moving into the less sensitive part of the property, we're putting it over where the existing septic is, and we're moving the new septic to where the existing driveway is, so that we keep that new construction not only into that less sensitive part of the buffer zone, and out of the buffer zone, but we wanted to move that to where there wasn't that much planting. We also wanted to keep as much of the existing trees and the existing landscape that separates the two properties. We're essentially putting the garage in the front yard of the existing house. And the awkwardness in doing that is that it makes it look like you just put a garage in front of somebody's front door. So when we built the mudroom addition and the connector, what we're really trying to do is make some sense out of having this garage, which we've moved to this less sensitive part of the property. Now we're just trying to make it have a little more sense and a bit more connectedness to the house, so it's not as awkward. So the goals here were create more separation between the two properties, create a sense of privacy and division between the two, rather than that sort of more shared element where they were each pulling up into each other's front yards, and maintain and improve the amount of landscape and the amount of privacy and mitigation plantings. So I'm going to give you a view over the property. So it's a little dark. It was a small photo blown up. But this open area in down the front yard going towards the existing garage at an angle is where the garage is going now, the new garage proposed. And this is the property line with all of that planting between the two. So we're adding to that and maintaining as much of that as possible in order to keep this separation. So we don't feel that what we're adding is taking away from that sense of privacy and the separation between the two properties. And then the garage that we're proposing, like the house itself, is about maintaining sort of the low scale, small size, and to that end, it's shaped where the back side towards the neighbor is much, much lower to the ground than the front. So where you have sort of a minimum height just to be able to drive a car in, on the back side we're dropping down, to just sort of head height in the back side, so that we minimize what the neighbor could possibly see if there were no trees. It's down low and holding towards the ground as much as possible. And the connector is a way to sort of bring the garage and the house together to give them some protection from the weather getting in the house, but also to make sense of this garage in what is now going to be in the front yard. So this is a colored version of the small plans that you have. And then I think that you have that little floor plan on it as well. So this is the garage that's proposed, and with the connector going to the house, which is just a roof, a little walkway.
Do any of our elevations show that connection well?
I don't believe we drew just the roof, which is all it actually, it's just that roof, the low portion.
I just don't see it. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't see it on our elevations, that connection. Is that right?
No, it should be there on the black and white. It's not color.
There's a black and white that shows that's a plan connector.
Plan view, but not an elevation.
Yeah. Sorry.
It showed part of it on that garage.
On that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was
I don't think so.
And that you submitted with the application.
that connection is
Yeah,
Yeah, see, that looks like part of it, right?
right.
The one that you have actually shows a bit more. It should have.
I do have the Revit 3D if you need that.
No, that's not it. I did file a black and white. I'm
Right,
sorry.
I got it. Thank you.
So quickly, just show the rest of the house. It's in comparison to. This is the view. Sense this is sort of at the same scale than the existing house and what's proposed, and sort of low gabled roof lines, shed dormers, double hung windows. Very
What do the diagonal lines indicate at either end?
on
The first floor?
On my left side, on your right side, is the screened-in porch.
Okay.
On that side, The other side is just interior space, but we've used the same vocabulary to sort of create it's the same vocabulary to make it seem a little bit smaller. We thought that if it looked like, there was another porch at the end, it would sort of minimize the size, but it's actually just heated interior space on that end. A little more glass, but it's meant to look like the other end of the house, where we're adding the new screened-in porch.
The existing structure gets demolished?
Yes, we're going to take down the house and rebuild it on the existing foundation. And the front side of the house, so this is the connector coming forward to bring us to the new garage.
I think maybe just besides architectural reasons, I know that Mrs. Verdur, just being a mom, was interested in having a covered walkway between the garage and the house as well, so.
We're doing some work
Part
in
of
the
it as
house.
well.
And it's in aging in place. We're doing, some things in the house, so that it can be suitable for multiple generations and for years to come as a family house. And our goal throughout this was to create a house suitable to the site, making trade-offs with in the buffer zone, with improvements, and we're asking for the connector just to make it feel a part of the house, where we've had to push it and sort of sit it in the front yard. So we do think that's something we need a special permit and special permission to ask for. We think overall the balance of everything we're looking for has been this idea of making everything an improvement, a net gain on the site, both environmentally and physically, and in separation and privacy with the neighbors. I'll turn it back to Sarah.
Just briefly, the standards for substantially not detrimental finding that you need to make are set forth in section 16444 of your bylaw. I'm sure you're very familiar with them by now, and they're also in the chapter 48 statute. But with respect to the adequacy of the size of the site, it's over 65,000 square feet in total lot area, 65,265 square feet, in fact. But the buildable upland portion of that, under the current definition of buildable upland, is 32,039 square feet. I understand there's a possible definition change on this May's town meeting warrant, which I believe those amendments were published before we filed this. So I've used those calculations as well as 31,162 square feet, which excludes the coastal bank. And in that manner, we are still meeting under the 15% lot coverage requirement, building coverage requirement in your bylaw. We'd be 12.1% building coverage under the current bylaw and 12.4% under the proposed change of the bylaw. The proposed structures will be 3,885 square feet. By point of reference, the existing structure is 3,110 square feet. So I think the size of the site certainly is adequate for the proposed use. Similarly, the suitability of the site for the proposed use is in a residential district. This is a single-family dwelling. There will be no impact on the traffic flow inasmuch as it's currently a four-bedroom house, and it will again be a four-bedroom house. So it's a replacement in kind with no anticipated increase in traffic. Relative to the standard of impact on the visual character of the neighborhood and the attendant views and vistas, I think you've heard us go through pretty extensively a comparison to what we're proposing versus the existing house. I think what we're proposing is certainly more in keeping with the nature of the and character of the neighborhood, in as much as it's a New England seaside cottage type design similar to those at the Nauset Heights, which enables us to keep the proposed structure in a historic context, but as well as being environmentally sensitive to the ecological values on the site with all the additional screening and planting mitigation. But they've also done a lot to break up those roof lines and really break up the massing and stagger the house in a way that I think makes it less impactful on the surrounding neighborhood. With respect to the adequacy of the sewage disposal system, we are proposing a brand new Title V, a brand new Title V septic system, and it will service the 4 bedrooms that are proposed, as the existing house has 4 bedrooms. There will be no change in the use of existing and adequacy of the existing utilities on site. Again, it's an in-kind replacement of a 4-bedroom home. They're adequate now, and they will continue to be so once this is done. Similarly, we're not creating any undue noise or litter with respect to this particular proposal. I think that's probably more a standard for commercial type development. With respect to number 8, which I do think is important with respect to this property, there will be no impact on the groundwater quality, recharge volume, or coastal water property by this proposal. I think, in fact, we enhance all of that groundwater quality by, and in fact, bringing the structure further away from the flood zone on the property and away from the coastal bank, replacing the existing I think it's a pre-78 system with a current Title V fully compliant septic system, relocating the garage further away from the wetland resource areas as well as further away from the flood zone, and providing all the native mitigation planting, which again stabilizes those soils and promotes flood control and storm damage prevention. So I think we really do improve water quality conditions on site. And so as a result, I think with the combination of these improvements, you can make readily the finding that this particular proposal will not be substantially more detrimental to the existing neighborhood than the existing home, and we hope that you will agree and find it's appropriate to issue us a special permit. And with that, I think I'll let you ask any questions that we might have. I know we've been talking for quite some time.
I think maybe just a preliminary question. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Let the record reflect that there was no response and that the Board of Appeals has not received any writings either in favor or opposed to the application, nor commenting on it whatsoever. If you wish. Or, I suppose I can ask questions first if you want.
I'm aware of Gale versus Gloucester, but I'm not aware that that's the criteria that we're using on this board at the moment. I have not received any information whatsoever that we were to use the Gale versus Gloucester decision. Are you aware of any correspondence or directives from?
I don't think that anyone has to tell us, Mr. Delory, whether to follow it or not. We make our own decision, and if we make a decision that's consistent with it, and someone challenges it, that's one thing. Or if we decide to ignore it and are wrong, if someone else is going to have to tell us we're wrong. So,
I just didn't realize that it was the standard for this board. Maybe Brian could.
Maybe so. You can make your opinion clear. It is my sense that if there's an existing nonconformity and that nonconformity is extended, then a variance isn't necessary. A special permit can be used to grant relief to the applicant. That's the executive summary of the way I understand Gale versus Gloucester.
For what it's worth, I did ask Brian to ask Michael Ford before we filed this application. If my my reasoning was appropriate in this situation, and he did concur, and Brian can confirm that.
Concur that Mike Ford was in agreement. He's trying to tweak our bylaw at this time to represent that.
So that's
but
part of
that-
my point.
It
there's
is.
no bylaw yet.
Well, I respect your point. It's of some consideration, tremendous consideration, because if we don't determine that this proposition, the project isn't isn't less detrimental, then we have to use the variance procedure and the standards there, which are a whole lot different. And I prefer not to. I think that the applicant's lawyers can discuss that with us. My preliminary thinking is that we can treat this as a special permit. There may be hardship here because of the 100-year flood zone. You don't find this too often, Mr. Delory, but it's urged that because of the 100-year flood zone, once the decision was made to relocate the garage, there was only one place that it could go, and that had to be 12 feet from the neighbor's land. I think that's the substance of your.
That's right, and also mindful that the existing garage was, in addition to being within the 100-foot zone that is regulated by the Conservation Commission, in the front yard of the structure, and your zoning bylaw also frowns upon that and wants it more in the side yard. So by moving it, you were necessarily in the 25-foot side yard because we were trying to get it out of the 100-foot, but also hopefully I was hoping that it would be offset by the improvement that we're getting it out of the front yard of this existing property.
In other words, that was the only place that the garage could have been sited or positioned.
Because of the 100-year flood zone?
100-year, 100-foot. There is a flood zone, but there's also a 100-foot buffer zone from setback from the coastal bank. They in the conservation Orleans Wetlands Protection Bylaw want you to site structures outside the 75 to 100-foot buffer zone to the extent feasible that you can on a lot, and that's where the siting of the garage came from.
And what zoning bylaw addresses the garage in a front lawn, or front yard?
Accessory structure in the front yard, I think, is you're supposed to site them in the side yard. New structures, obviously our existing structure is already where it is.
And the existing garage was?
Existing garage, I'm sorry, is right here.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about this property is there is no frontage.
That's why I was wondering where the road was.
So where is the front yard? I'm assuming because the road, if you look on my Exhibit A to my zoning application, you'll see that the roadway comes up and ends in a T fashion here. So if you consider this southerly property line the front yard, and this would be the side yard. That is how I've been interpreting it the whole time, and again, trying to marry the two. We sort of have competing interests between zoning and wetlands, trying to marry the two and get the best result under both, and meeting to the maximum extent possible both wetlands and zoning in town. And I do completely agree with the chairman. The idea under Gale versus Gloucester is that you can only proceed by special permit upon a finding of this board, the substantially more detrimental finding, and in the event that you didn't make that finding, you'd go on to the variance, which is why we've requested it in the alternative. But that we are permitted to proceed, at least initially, with a request for special permit.
Am I simplifying this too much? But the only dimension that we're really worried about are on the
West.
The northwest side.
We are
Otherwise, you haven't done anything to increase the nonconformity.
Yes.
I'm counting 5 instances where,
On that side.
On that
that's-
side,
Yes, yes, and it's aggravated by the garage, which is 12 feet. No one's
It's an
objecting to that, it
oversized
seems.
garage.
so Gale versus Gloucester didn't say, okay, well, you're non-conforming on this one point with the 28 feet from the coastal bank, so then you can do one more.
Well, you
can't do 5, can you do
Well,
one
you
more?
might be
I
trouble.
don't know.
You might be trouble because, of course, the garage is brand new, and it's connected by overhangs, as for all practical purposes. It's an extension of the newly proposed building, you see. So that aggravates the problem, in my opinion, that you're honing it down to 12 feet, where the other 4 or 5 problems are, they're close. Is that what you mean?
Oh, they're closer.
Yeah, they're much
Yeah.
closer.
They're closer.
They're
Closer to the-
practically double.
Yeah. Does the neighbor to the west, they commented?
Right, we sent them the plans prior to filing for conservation approval back last fall, and we haven't heard a response from them, either negative nor positive. We followed up with emails and voicemails and haven't heard, so I suspect they've gotten notice twice now. I'm hoping their silence means that they're in agreement.
I also discussed it with them as neighbors last fall.
Let the record reflect that the file indicates that notice was given to the applicant the notice of this application was given to this applicant and to 5 other property owners within the 300 feet as required by law, including those neighbors that you were just referring to.
Can I ask Brian another question?
Yes, you may.
Brian, are we looking at one structure here or 2?
With the connector, I would be looking at it as one.
Okay.
Which is why the garage is subject to the 25-foot setback.
Yes, correct.
I think it's an important distinction to make. You're taking one non-conforming, you're starting with one non-conforming structure and one conforming structure, and you're ending up with one non-conforming structure. Is that fair to say?
How you look at it.
If we're calling it one structure? Or is there something additional that they need to do for it to qualify as one structure?
Okay.
Solid roof?
Fair assessment.
If the roof line didn't connect it, would the setback be different for the garage?
Could be, it would be just as height away from the rear and the side and the principal structure.
So it'd be more than 12 feet?
I don't know what the height is, I don't know how the elevation is, whatever the elevation of the structure is from what we perceive to be the street side, sets the height of the setback from the rear and side yards and the principal.
So it'd still probably be more than 12 feet.
It could be 14.8, 32.8 minus 14.8, but that's not clear.
It's because the average existing grade, it's off, we're just under 17 feet high and 12 feet off the property line. But the average existing grade is a little bit lower than the 16 feet where we're landed, so it actually adds a couple of feet in terms of
So
on there. I think it's, if I remember right, it's about, it comes to about 18 feet.
So if we were to disconnect and move it 5 feet further into the wetland setback, we'd just be intruding into the coastal bank setback, which is what we were trying to avoid. But if we did that, then we wouldn't need the zoning relief we're requesting. So again, the idea was to try and be as environmentally sensitive to the site as possible with a request for zoning relief, rather than intrude into the setback with new construction.
You see, the problem we're struggling with here is that Galen versus Gloucester is blind as to topography. Topography comes into play on the variance.
Yes, So in Gale versus Gloucester, the fact pattern was a very sort of dense neighborhood with an existing oversized house on an existing that already encroached into the side setbacks, and the new house made it larger, so it increased the lot coverage violation or nonconformity and increased the intrusion into the setback. And what the appeals court determined was that 40A Section 6 enabled zoning boards to grant the approval of that through the special permit process, provided they found it was substantially not more detrimental to the neighborhood. And this was a sea change, I think, for those of us who practice residential zoning, because always in the past, and in the town that I represent, Brewster, in your town, in all the towns I've ever been in front of, when you increase the nonconformity, you could extend it along the same lot line, but if you actually increased it, usually triggered a variance. And so this was sort of created a lot of buzz in the land use community. Ultimately, I think it's tempered by the fact that if you don't make that finding, you're still looking at a variance. But it was something that was new to people. So that's why I took it to Brian and asked him to take it to Attorney Ford first, just to make sure that we were on the same page, because I didn't want to trip you up with something new.
Wouldn't you say your read of 164 3C 1B gives us similar leeway here?
To increase.
I mean, to me, and back to Beth's question, if it's two separate structures and there's not the connector, I'm not good with the garage because it's a new nonconformity. If it's one structure and it's connected, my read of 164 3C 1B gives us the leeway, provided it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood. So to me, that connection and it being one structure is the key piece here.
Yep. And I did request that special, I identified that as one of the options. It's hard, it's an interesting analysis when you're actually looking at a structure to try and fit it into your provisions of the bylaw, but there seem to be a number of them here that could fit the special permit analysis, which is why I went with it.
Could we just ask one more question? Hopefully my last. The coastal setback from the coastal bank, 1.5 times the height. David, maybe it's a question for you. Could you talk to how building height was measured and how average existing grade was measured, and just kind of talk us through that calculation?
Well, with respect to the setback from the coastal bank, I believe the definition is the grade on the coastal bank side of the dwelling to the ridge height.
Right, so we got fairly unique because we got 3 sides of coastal bank, so just...
Right, but we looked at it on, underneath that deck, it's, the grade drops off, it's a walkout basement there. Right under here.
Mhm.
There's a walk-in basement
Yep.
on this side. So the grade is down on basement level on this side. So that's the grade we were looking at. We took for our calculation and then went to the ridge height. And
So on that corner, you look like you get a grade of 12, and then in the corner, the westerly corner, you've got a or northwesterly corner, you got 16.
16 or 17, it's pretty close.
So you're...
But when you're looking at the setback from, or the required setback from a coastal bank, you take it from the, at the coastal bank side of the dwelling, you take the grade and the ridge height, and then I think that was what?
27.6.
Yeah, 27.6, 28 feet times the 1.5, got up to the 41 foot setback, I believe.
Yes.
So that's how we calculate it.
So what are you using for a ridge elevation?
I got that.
41.8.
41.8 is the ridge elevation. And
So we're calling that whole pyramidal roof, we're calling the entire pyramidal roof a cupola?
At the tip top? Yeah.
That structure,
Yeah.
we're calling that whole thing a cupola?
The garage appears to be twice as big as it needs to be. What are the dimensions on the garage?
It's about 13 feet longer than the is, no, sorry, about 10 feet longer than the current garage. So it's 33 feet long and 24 feet deep.
Okay, so the squares that are on the plan here, is that just the garage door? Or does that indicate where a car would be?
The garage
Yes.
doors.
It's just the garage door, okay.
That's where they rest when they're open.
And what is the minimum depth for a garage?
24 feet.
24? And this is 33?
It's 33 feet
The other way.
wide.
Okay, what is the depth this
It's
way?
24.
24.
So this is 24.
Okay.
And this is 33.
Okay, thank you. And the green space, what does that indicate?
I just asked, I should have asked them to fill it in here too, but it's indicative of the mitigation planning that's
Plantings?
going directly to what you're looking at. which is-
Okay, so it'll be screened,
It's gonna be,
screening?
yeah, additional mitigation planning back here, just further screening.
Okay, thank you. And the driveway, looks like it's massive.
The driveway we created as a two-lane sort of farmer's track up to this turnaround area, again, to maneuver the cars in and out. That's the shape, the turning radius that they came up with.
So that whole thing is gonna be gravel?
Shells.
Excuse me?
Shells.
Shells?
Do you have an order of conditions?
We did, we got one, yeah, on March 5th.
And the part of the order of conditions included a landscaping plan?
Right.
And who drew the landscaping plan?
Bill Cheney.
Okay. We're not favored with that. It would have been of some consequence when we're considering the big picture and detriment. And that's it?
So, the crosshatch area is the mitigation planting that was previously approved in connection with the approval for the revetment, which is in a great state of disrepair. I don't know if you've been down there, but it's falling apart. And then, above that, all of these plantings, and there are different types that are itemized over here, are additional native plantings of 3,000 square feet that are just associated with the house construction.
What is the date of the plan on the lower right?
I don't know, I want to make sure that that's the final approved one. It's here, and I can give you the date. He signed it on March 5th. I knew that.
When it was approved by the Conservation Commission, the applicant and the Conservation Commission both signed the approved plans. So it was approved on that date, and that's when I signed the engineering plans and Phil Cheney signed the landscape plan.
Very well.
I can't put my fingers on it.
In any event, the order of conditions was accompanied by a landscaping mitigation plan drawn by Philip Cheney. Is that correct?
It is correct. I have it. Landscape mitigation plan, Stephen Brodeur, signed by Phil Cheney on 3/5/13. Last revision date, 3/1/2013.
On that exhibit plan that's up there, the buffer planting, if you will, between the garage and the property line is in addition to the 3,000 square feet of mitigation planting.
Because it was out of their jurisdiction?
Correct.
Yeah, it was out of the Conservation Commission's.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Yes, sir.
My name is Bruce Wolf, and I own the property directly to the south, 17 Leeson. And we're a new owner of that property. I lived in East Orleans for a long time, but we just recently bought that property and just moved in. And I'd like to compliment the Brodeurs on an excellent plan, which is in conformity with the neighborhood, and I think it looks like a great job, and especially all their environmental concerns. I think they did a terrific job. I would just request that if they could move the entrance to the driveway a little bit further to the north. There's a beautiful stone wall there that is on our property, and the entrance is right adjacent to it, and I'd like to see if they could move it slightly.
Happy to accommodate that. Nice meeting.
Are you meaning up this
A little further up.
Yeah.
I agree, it's a beautiful
the
stone
line.
wall.
But I think they did a great job, and I wish more residents who build homes in Orleans would take the care that they took.
Sir, did you wish to speak?
Thank you. My name is Jamie Ladd, L-A-D-D, at 18 Weesick Proprietors Way. And I have spoken with Mr. Brodeur. From what I've seen tonight, I also had a chance to review the engineering plan and by phone, looking at the same drawings a few months ago. We support the request. I did have a short conversation with Mr. Brodeur this evening on two concerns. One has to do with Weesick Proprietors Way, which is a private road, and he has assured me that they will take care of any damage that the construction traffic creates. And secondly, was the concern about traffic during construction. And again, he reassured me that he knows his builder, has known him for quite some time, and gave me assurance satisfactorily that that could be handled in the event it became a problem. Thank you.
Sounds like your concerns have been relieved.
I'm sorry,
Your
speaking-
concerns have been relieved then.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak concerning this application? Members of the board, do you have any further questions?
Just
Not
wanna-
from
you know-
me.
Sorry. Just before you, if you were intending to close the public
was.
comment, it's been a really long and more organic process, and we've been very responsive and continue to want to be responsive to your concerns. So as we move forward, if you have any, we're happy to discuss them further with you.
Very well. Then I will close the hearing for the evidence. I'm wondering if two questions that concern me and wondering whether anyone else is concerned. The first is whether there's any real question as to whether there's a detriment to the neighborhood threatened by this new construction.
You're saying if trucks going up and down Weesick, there's going to be a detriment?
No, the finished
Oh,
production.
no, I certainly don't think
The
so.
finished project. I didn't see it myself. Do you see a detriment to
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question directly, but my feeling, just looking at it from a zoning standpoint, is that that it's a variance. In the absence of, any compelling argument, I know that Gale versus Gloucester exists. But I'm just not ready to let that horse out of the barn yet.
All right. then, do you have, or does any member of the board have a problem with the hardship to the land caused by the relocation of the garage so that it has to be, say, within 12 feet of the sideline? Do you think that constitutes hardship to the land?
Well,
That would be the test if we decided to consider this and grant a variance.
we've seen a lot of projects come to us where, and I've been involved with projects where conservation with mitigation and negotiation will allow something within 75 feet routinely. It's been my experience.
I think it's worth rereading 164 3C 1B, because personally I don't feel like my read of the project is that it wouldn't meet the variance criteria, but that it's grantable by special permit. So again, except as otherwise set forth and see below, alteration to a non-conforming single or two-family residential structure that increases the non-conforming nature of the structure may be allowed on special permit from the Board of Appeals, provided the Board of Appeals finds that such alteration will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. So I think I saw where you were headed with that. I feel that the project fits neatly within 164 3C 1B, but may not.
I'm inclined to think so too, but the linchpin to that then, the second question is if anyone is concerned by the joinder of the two structures, the garage and the new building and the new residence, so that they be considered as a unit and therefore bootstrap the earlier sideline situation to what becomes a serious numerical discrepancy. If anyone has a problem with that, then we have to take another look at it. But once you get over that, then I think that we are allowed to do it by special permit. It seems to me that the project has been designed with that in mind, because there's extra roofs and overhangs so that it's not just, they've done this without an insult to the concept of roofing. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's a legitimate extension of the structure, architecturally and structurally. So, what's your thinking?
I guess I'd feel better if the garage was 24 by 24. I think they're sort of pushing the 12-foot setback there. Or if they could move it forward to make it 15 or 20 feet away from the sideline, but I don't know if any of that makes sense.
The thinking by the applicant is that's really the only place that the new garage can go?
It's the best place for the lot. I mean, we could ask the Conservation Commission to move it into their jurisdiction. It is preferable, I thought, under zoning and conservation to get it out of being in front of the house and closer to that sideline. And we wouldn't need zoning relief again if we disconnected it and lowered the height to 12 feet. Or there's ways around it, but I think that it's preferable to have it in that location, both for zoning purposes and wetland purposes. It gets it completely out of the majority of it, completely out of their 100-foot buffer zone, and as well as getting it out of your front yard under zoning.
Least visible spot from the neighbor's property too. It's the most protected and the most buffered spot, which we're even adding more buffer.
There's no habitable space in that structure.
No, the extra length is due to storage, which they're
boat
not
storage
getting,
or
and,
something?
yeah,
Yep.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Summer things, recycling bins,
Yeah.
all that other stuff. There's a little piece that turns off
Yeah.
at the end, and that's really just an architectural gesture to, because of all the angles that everything on the property takes, we just tried to get something that looked parallel to the house.
Will there be a second floor above the garage?
No, it's still too low.
Never.
It's personal choice. I'd rather have the garage closer to the house.
It's the only thing that really gives us a chance to develop a nice little courtyard entry to the house, too. It's tight.
I think we need 4 votes.
Yeah. I did that calculation before I got here. Again, I think that there's ways to address it, and I'm not just saying, we've been, the Brodeurs have been the dream clients, because they've literally, we sent them back to the drawing board, Dave and I, so many times, just to get the understanding and the conformance with the wetlands bylaw. They've been fabulous. And they haven't dictated much of anything relative to where this stuff goes. It's been strictly dictated by a permitting analysis. So my belief is that this is that garage location, even though it encroaches into the side yard setback, is actually better for this lot, not only because of the wetlands setback requirements, but also because of that zoning, that you get it more in line with the side yard and out of the front yard, and that, in fact, it could be remedied by eliminating the connector, and then you're only treating it as an accessory structure. I didn't feel was the better alternative under zoning for this lot. So again, if there needs to be a further dialogue of give and take, I'd like to have that with you. I don't want to push it if we don't have the 4 votes and then wind up with that 2-year, either under the variance or the special permit, in a situation where I have to go to the planning board and get approval to reapply. But I did think that it was better under zoning. And that belief stemmed from almost a year ago, that conversation and meeting with John and Brian with some preliminary plans and really talking about the varying competing interests of your zoning bylaw and your wetlands bylaw.
And you're really trying to do a very difficult thing here. It's a wonderful design. I appreciate the design strategy. You just haven't got enough land. It's a beautiful spot. It deserves to be treated properly.
Well, it's 65,000 square feet total area, 32,000 of buildable upland. I'm not sure the size. I mean, like I said, it can remain in that location with a lower roof height and no connection. I don't think that it's the size of the lot necessarily that impedes the approval, more than the tight corner, certainly, and the fact that it's super narrow, the shape of the lot, and surrounded by the topography of the coastal bank.
Are we talking about a matter of degree, so that if the distance from the garage to the lot line was, say, 22 feet rather than 12, would that be a tipping point, Mr. Delory? Or you still think that a variance is necessary?
Well, we have another dimension of 18 feet as well. You know, it's that whole west property line, basically. With tearing down the existing structure, I think it would have been possible to put all these elements on this lot without violating the zoning setback.
We're taking down the structure, but not the foundation. We were building on the foundation in order to keep our.
But you've got some new foundations with all these little additions.
We put the porch off the back. The reason for the mudroom coming forward is, again, because the garage is so far away, in order to get it into that 100-foot zone, we're trying to bring the house to the garage a bit. We're trying to connect these things in a way that they're, they don't seem so far removed and not a part of one composition.
So the next problem is the 18 feet of that, but that's to a point on the deck.
Well, that's actually covered.
Yeah. All right.
Related specifically to the garage, right?
I'm sorry?
Related specifically to the garage, you could get rid of the connector, move it in 4.75 feet, and then the garage
And then we don't need
conforms.
zoning relief,
You don't
yeah.
need zoning relief for the garage.
It's just-
Or,
yeah.
or you keep the roof, and it's all one structure. And moving the garage another 4.75 feet, is that objectionable?
As we move it away from the property line, it actually gets harder to maneuver. There's a retaining wall and a drop off. So part of our bringing the driveway around, following our doors, and getting into the property and sort of creating this, way of getting the driveway away from the neighbors and, sort of creating more the separation. That the farther we bring the garage over, the closer we're just bringing it over towards where the existing garage already is. And so what we're really trying to do is just create something. We're trying to create something low, usable, and reasonable.
With regard to wetlands, we were trying to be net neutral. Impacting getting the garage farther away made us net neutral. If we move it back, we're not going net neutral.
Yeah, I'd rather see it connected as one structure the way that it is than shoved into the driveway just to achieve the 16.75
Because it's
feet.
sort of competing two different, and you have your side setback, but also your structures in front of other structures, which is also discouraged, so they're kind of competing against each other in this weird case where the lot's so skinny.
Did I understand you to say to pull it closer to the house was topography?
If it's going away from that sideline, the side property.
No, I'm just saying if you pull the garage closer to the house and shorten the walkway, is that present a problem?
It doesn't present a problem architecturally, but it does pushes it beyond that 100-foot.
Okay.
buffer zone. So
More
start-
structure will be in their
Yeah.
100-foot buffer zone.
And one of our goals was this sort of netting, the footprint, the zero footprint in that coastal zone area. So we made our additions, what we gave up with the garage going away is actually, it netted out to zero, the stuff that we've added in the
50 to 75.
75.
Okay.
So we wanted to sort of keep it neutral.
Part of your negotiations with conservation?
Yeah, I mean, it really was.
Been there.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
me. It was like, go back. The Conservation Commission saw this, yeah.
Again, I think I'd go back to 164 3C1B. Clearly, it allows the increase of a non-conforming nature structure. I think that the determination is whether it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. I think that's what it comes down to. And I think from all that I've heard of comments from at least two of the neighbors in your reach out to really the only neighbor that it affects, and having not heard back, I'm satisfied that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing.
Well, I am too.
Michael, you're in agreement with Matt about 163,
I am.
164-3.
164, 3B, 3B, C1,
3C1B.
3C1B. I am.
Sounds like Dr. Seuss.
So that, in your mind, that takes it out of the variance.
Yes. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Does she want a poll?
I know. I'd like to poll. I don't want to.
Very well.
I'm sorry.
If a motion for finding of fact were made, I'm asking the board their sense of approval or disapproval. I will make a motion including findings of fact which would satisfy in every category the requirements of 164-44 of the zoning bylaw of the town of Orleans. A special permit, that is.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh.
Very well. Following public deliberation by the Zoning Board of Appeals, a quorum of qualified members being present voting. Based upon the application of Andrea and Stephen Brodeur Realty Trust, filed March 8, 2013. Based also upon the site plan prepared by Coastal Engineering Company, Inc., dated March 7, 2013. Based on the elevation drawings and preliminary design drawings for the garage, prepared by Meyer and Meyer, 5 pages. Based also on the preliminary design studies for the dwelling, prepared by Meyer and Meyer, dated February 26, 2013, 5 pages. Based also on the order of conditions of the Orleans Conservation Commission, dated March 5, 2013. Based on the landscape mitigation plan drawn by Philip Cheney, last revised March 1, 2013, and accompanied with the order of conditions of the Orleans Conservation Commission. And based upon the plan entitled Exhibit Plan Showing Proposed Site Improvements, drawn by Coastal Engineering Company, Inc., dated April 3rd, 2013, filed at this hearing. I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. One, the subject property known as 25 Weesup Proprietors Way is shown as parcel 4 on Orleans map 6 and is in a R district. 2, the present use of the property is a single-family residence with a detached garage. 3, the proposed use of the property is a newly constructed single-family residence with a separate garage with approximate dimension of 33 by 24. 4, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the established and future character of the neighborhood and will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Five, the alteration and reconstruction will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. 6, the site is adequate in terms of size and suitable for the proposed use. Specifically, property contains 65,265 square feet in total lot area and 32,039 square feet of buildable upland under the definition in the current zoning bylaw, and 31,162 square feet of buildable upland under the proposed definition excluding the coastal bank. The proposed building coverage is 3,885 square feet in area, or 12.1% of the current definition of buildable upland. Therefore, the proposed structure meets both the 15% building coverage requirement and the 4,000 square foot coverage limitation. Seven. The site is suitable for the proposed use. It's located within an R district where residential use is permitted, and it perpetuates by reconstructing a single-family residence. 8, the proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. 9, the proposed use will have no negative impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. The architecture is consistent with neighboring uses. And current views have not been impeded by the proposed use. 10, the proposed use is isolated from, will have no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, drainage, or water resources. The property will be serviced by an upgraded, fully Title V compliant septic system with sufficient capacity to support the proposed construction. Public water supply will continue. Eleven, utilities and public services will be adequate for the proposed use. 12, noise and litter will not be increased after the completion of construction of the proposed use. There will be no adverse impact on groundwater quality and recharge volume and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies. That concludes the motion, members of the board. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion on the motion?
No.
Then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very, very much.
Based on the findings of fact, I move that the board grant a special permit pursuant to sections 164 C3, 3C, 1B, and 164-44 of the zoning bylaw without without conditions. Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion to grant a special permit? Aye. And opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time and patience with this application.
What is-
I'll take them. I never bought those nice big copies. A little tiny electric one.
Well,
Sure.
again,
Good luck.
it all
No, I've been through conservation, so I know where you're coming from.
defines what's special permit, what's variance differently, right?
The blocks are used.
Yeah, that's right. And they went out of the way to conceal it and to make it
Again, it all depends on how you're in terms of
Yeah, I
In and out very quickly.
couldn't buy, spend that kind of money on that property and block my view.
so many times we go out.
Maybe he was intimidated by conservation or...
I thought restructuring this way or something like that. The existing building was pretty much okay.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
It gives more leeway, but it also clarifies.
But they did the right thing. They got the folks
Good
to
luck.
come in and say,
Yep.
okay.
But then there's this.
Then, there being no further business to come before the meeting, I'll entertain
Minutes, please.
minutes.
Minutes, please. Thank you.
And on the agenda also was the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Which Matt wanted to revise by putting in the minutes that he recused. It's in the,
It's in the decision.
it's in the decision, but he wants it in the minutes too, and I have no
Very
problem
well.
doing
Will
that.
you make such, with
Yes.
subject to that amendment, can we approve the minutes? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve inclusive of that change?
In a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously, and now a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second?